Greetings and welcome to Mount Olympus. I am Hercules Invictus, and today on Herculean Physique, I'm proud to bring you the one, the only Ryan Foley. Greetings and welcome, Ryan. How are you?
I'm doing good, sir. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, and as always, I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts and your ideas.
Well, good. And boy, so just full disclosure here right off the bat, I feel like I don't really go through it and plan that introduction, but I catch myself saying the same thing every time where I come in and I say I'm doing great, and I am, but I want to go through and put just a little bit of an asterisk by that. But I'll go through and explain. So what we're talking about here today. So I love coming on and talking with you and discussing bodybuilding and discussing mythology and the various avenues that the conversations that we have, which kind of sometimes go off in directions that we hadn't planned. But I really enjoy that. I like just going with the free form conversation, and I go through just a little bit. Panic is probably not the right word, but after I get done talking with you, I immediately start thinking, okay, well, so what are we going to talk about next month? And so again, stress is not the right word because this is something fun that I get to do, but I want to present a good presentation for the listeners who are out there. So sometimes I go through and I find things, and then there are other times where I go through and things find me. So for whatever reason, the universe opens up to me and it says, hey, this is probably something that you should talk about. So just to explain, because I know every one of these shows is probably going to be someone's first show, and so why should you come through and listen to me and what I'm about to talk about? This is all. It's going to be what they call anecdotal experience. I know sometimes I could have a bit of a negative term to it because anecdotal doesn't sound scientific. It's just saying this is what I've experienced in the last 11 years of going through and being on this journey that I'm on. I'm not saying that everything will work, and not everything that I do is going to work for everyone else. And there's going to be things that people will do that may not necessarily work for me. But so the idea here is to go through and improve your gym IQ to a point where you can start to understand, okay, so let's listen to this, let's see what he has to say, and then we'll assimilate and we'll keep what we want and reject what doesn't work for us. And so again, this is a journey that I've been on. It's really been a journey of self discovery. I started in 2014. I just decided, man, I want to go through. I want to improve my life, and I thought the best way that I could do that was by getting back into the gym. I'd had a little bit of gym experience whenever I was in high school. I lifted a little bit when I was in college, but not nearly the level of dedication and science that I had dedicated with this current round. And so bodybuilding to me has been a way where it's gone through, it's improved me physically, it's improved me intellectually, it's improved me socially, and it's also improved me emotionally. So whenever I go through and recommend for people to get in the gym, I'm doing it not because it's not me coming in wagging a finger going, hey, I think you need to lose a few pounds. It's me coming in going, I want you to experience those same highs that I have experienced in my lifting career. So this is going to sound as just a little bit. So to help me kind of describe that asterisk that I want to put up there, these are all first world problems, and I completely understand that. But so, um, like everyone, man, we're all busy. We've all got a lot of stuff going on. For me personally, I mean, I'm working at my job. I'm putting in work every day in the gym. I'm attempting to lose fat while maintaining my muscle mass, which is extremely difficult to do. But I'm operating in a caloric deficit, so that already kind of wants to go through and put me in a little bit of a bad mood because it feels like I'm hungry a lot. But then I'm also I am an author. It's more of a part-time position. I kind of wish that it paid more, but it is what it is. But I'm on deadline. And so when I'm on deadline like that, I get into this creative mode. And when that happens, man, it's really hard to turn that off. Especially there are times where, my body betrays me in the middle of the night. I got to get up. I got to go to the bathroom and then lay back down, and hopefully I can go back to sleep. But there are times where, like, okay, let's see, what am I going to do? How am I going to work out this problem that I have in chapter 19? Yeah, and so then my mind can start going. And in the previous incarnation of the show, I know we talked about it back then, but it's worth pointing out here now. Um, Sleep, so important when it comes to your recovery. And so, since I'm on deadline, a self-imposed deadline, in order to get my next novel out, so I'm working hard. I'm going through. I'm doing all this stuff, and so again, working in that caloric deficit, going up to the gym every single day. Even I switched where I wasn't even taking a rest day, where I would go in. I would like do a day just dedicated to cardio instead of just taking the day off, because I'm tracking my numbers on my watch and my caloric intake and my energy output and all that sort of stuff. It's a lot. It's a lot to keep a hold of. And so I was really close to experiencing a crash.
Mm.
And so I really want to get your opinion on this, as I've been rambling here for a few minutes. Um,
You've been establishing a foundation for what you're sharing, and that's very important. Thank you.
Thank you. So I just, before I get into how I recovered from this, averted, that's really the better word, averted this crash. Have you ever come across an experience like this? And if so, how do you deal with it?
Well, I recently came across an experience like that in that I was basically exercising. I wasn't aiming for anything in particular, like entering a contest or building up the size of my chest, or I just wanted to maintain. I was pretty happy with the way my body was. I was getting older, so I wasn't able to lift as much as before, or be as strict in my movements as I was before. But as you know, I've been through several difficult patches. One was my spinal problems. Then, of course, is the diabetes, which I've had for well over a decade now. And that's pretty much under control. I watch what I eat. Then I was diagnosed with Parkinson's. So with Parkinson's, the movements that you do in bodybuilding, which is basically constricting, are not good because your body with Parkinson's is constricting anyway. So it's like hunching you over, it's like restricting your movements. So I wasn't about to give up the weights, but what I had to do is I had to counterbalance my constricting weightlifting exercises with stretching. So I'll do calf raises with the muscle, then I'll do calf stretches without the weights.
Okay.
And the same thing with my chest exercises too. And I've been taught not to breathe from your upper chest, but to breathe with your belly. And that was what the wisdom was for much of my growing up time. So I taught myself not to breathe with my upper chest, but to breathe like deep belly breaths. But now with the Parkinson's, I have to breathe with my chest to expand my rib cage. So I have to relearn how to breathe. So it's like everything I knew was wrong, or not really wrong, but not uh, applicable to the circumstance I find myself in now. So I had to take a break, rethink everything, and then just modify how I do the exercises. And also because of the Parkinson's, I can't do long workouts like I used to do. So now I do 4 or 5 small workouts during the course of a day, spread out. And I have some of them are muscle bodybuilding exercises, some of them are stretching exercises, some of them are mental exercises, some of them are breathing exercises, some of them are without equipment, some of them are with equipment, and I'm constantly playing with that till I hit the right balance for now. And like you pointed out, what works today might not work tomorrow. What works for somebody else might not work for me. And I also decided to see what are people doing with Parkinson's. Some people claim to have beat it. Some people claim to have it under control, and some claim to still have the Parkinson's, but they're not as negatively affected in their lives. So I wanted to see what those people are saying, what they're doing. And that's led to a lot of really interesting things with my reset. I'm Greek. I love to dance. I haven't danced since my son's wedding, I don't think, in any significant way. But now I try to do 3, 4 times a week, a good 6, 7 minutes of Greek dancing. I can't do it as well as I did it because I can't expand as much as I did. So it's kind of like a shuffly Greek dance, but I do it several times a week. And also, boxing is a good thing for people with Parkinson's. So I never wanted to box. I never really learned to box, but I know shadow boxing. So what I do
Sure.
is in between sets, sometimes I'll rest and sometimes I'll do shadow boxing for like 20, 25 jabs between the exercises. So I've integrated that. My occupational therapist showed me how to use definitive sound, like be certain when you talk. And I found that there's a book on that, on using shouts and cheers and things like that to deal with the Parkinson's. So it's a time of extreme experimentation. And I know I can't do things the way that I was doing them because based on what's going on with me now, it's just making that worse. So even though it might have been the wisest thing to do until I got diagnosed with this, now it's the absolute wrong thing to do. So I'm at a point where I have to rethink everything from the beginning, experiment, fail repeatedly until I find something that succeeds, do more of what succeeds and less of what doesn't feel right or act right upon my body, and then know that it's not going to work forever, and I'm going to have to keep doing this as I move forward.
Sure. So whenever you go through, and so like for the longest time, I think the reason why I was so intimidated when it came to taking a break. So I start on this journey in 2014. And I'm cruising along, and things are developing, and I'm really liking the progress that that's happening. And then of course 2020, COVID comes along and shuts everything down. And so then we're all kind of forced to go through and take a break. And I always felt like whenever I came out of COVID, and it could have been any number of factors, and it even could have been a mental block where it's like actually I was doing better than I realized, but I felt like so much had dropped off, and I was like, man, I can't get back to that level that I was at. And so my mentality was, and as I will explain later about how my mentality was wrong, I was like, it's going to be better to stay at the top of the mountain the entire time. Don't ever come down off of it, because if you do, you're not going to get it back. So you've got to keep pushing. You've got to keep pushing. And that goes through and eventually caused me a bit of a burnout. I mean, now also with going through, I felt like I had put on a little too much weight. So again, it's going through, it's tracking all. I have to count my calories, and I've discovered that I have to keep my hand on the wheel the whole time in order to go through and in order to remain at a caloric deficit. And so I have to remind myself of things like, okay, so this is a long-term thing. So you have to maintain a caloric deficit across 7 days. And so for that one day where we're going to get together as a family, so I can have dinner with my kids, it's a big thing. We get together about twice a week to go through, and that those calories, I won't say, it's not like we're going through and we're eating a bunch of junk. It's just that we're going to go through and we're going to have breakfast. And so I'm going to eat an abundance of scrambled eggs, an abundance of bacon and sausage, which is all, those are good proteins for me, but it's just I'm going over my caloric limit. But then also I'm recharging my batteries when I'm with my kids. And if you can't live optimized 100% of the time, you'll go crazy.
Right.
But what I had found is that, as I had kind of started to beat myself up whenever I wasn't getting to a negative 1,000 calories, which is what I have to get to every day in order to lose 2 pounds a week. And that can be extremely stressful. And so, but to go through and to break from that routine that you have been establishing for so long, did you ever come across a mental block, for lack of a better term, and where it's like, man, I was on a roll here, but the roll's not working, and I know I need to change it, but then you kind of instinctively feel bad because, oh, I only placed eighth on the list of the most active people in the gym when before I was at three. I mean, and I know that's a minor quibble, and I should come along and say, hey, I was still, I ranked eighth. That's pretty darn good. I mean, have you ever come across these mental blocks? And if so, how did you deal with them?
Uh, Basically, the way I deal with the blocks, because I'm pretty good at sticking to my diet, but I found that if I want to cheat, it's better if I'm in control of the cheating. Like for instance, today I wanted to cheat. I felt I've been doing good keeping my blood sugar down, and I'm not watching my calories currently because of the diabetes. I do better on a personally. I've tried lots of diets, but personally, I do better on the low carbohydrate, high fat, high to medium protein diet. So I found that as long as I watch that, I don't have to watch my weight. I've been at the same weight now for a very long time, for years. So I don't have to worry about that aspect of it anymore. But if I'm going to cheat, it's with deliberation. So today I wanted to cheat. So I asked my wife if she can go to the King's Market. They have some eclair type of things there. Our favorite place of getting eclairs was all the way on the other side of the county. So I didn't want to go all the way over there just to get an eclair. But I figured that'll do second best, and I'll have some chocolate wine, which is my favorite cheat. I do that once or
Okay.
twice a month. So the eclairs and the Boston cream things that I like to cheat with was not, it sold out. So there went that. So instead of, I wanted to cheat with that. I decided to cheat with that. So I didn't ask for something else to cheat with, because then you fall into the, it becomes a habit and it becomes
Sure.
impulsive rather than chosen. So we got the chocolate wine, and I drank a cup of that, with my dinner. And that was it. And that's all I needed to do. And it's done now. And next time I cheat, and I cheat once or twice a month, it's again, it's something I decided on, and it's not for the whole day. It's just for the meal. And
Right.
I find that as long as I control these things, I can enjoy a lot of things that I was depriving myself of. And also with the diabetes, it's uncertain. Just like you don't know what exercises will work and for how long they'll work. With the diabetes, you don't know how long the food that you're eating will keep your blood sugar low. So, for instance, I've given this example before, but I love peanut butter, and I used to eat lots of peanut butter, and it kept my blood sugar low until the day that it didn't.
Okay.
And then it consistently didn't. And then I played with it, and I found that if I restrict my peanut butter intake to 2 tablespoons every other month, it doesn't affect my blood. If I have more than that, it will. So now that's a once in a while, I'll have a little bit of nut butter, with what I'm eating, as long as I keep it under 2 tablespoons and every other month, and it'll be fine. So something that seemed again healthy and kept my blood sugar numbers low doesn't work anymore. So I have to find now what'll work. So I can't cheat with that anymore. Uh,
And how well have you adapted to so like I assume that you're not able to do deadlifting anymore.
right, because
And
of spinal injuries mostly. I have arthritis of the spine, and then within the small number of inches, I also have stenosis, which is like a narrowing. I have bone spurs, and I have a few discs that are out of alignment. The slip discs, I think they call them. So
okay.
that's all within a space of, let's say, a pack of cigarettes or a tens unit. So I can't really do heavy poundages without injuring my back now. So I have to find, I do a lot of what you suggested. I'm doing lighter weights to failure, and I'm finding
Okay.
that that's working really well. So that's something I learned from you last time we spoke. And I always learn something from you, even if I can't do exactly what you're talking about. I'll try an element of it, and sometimes that element's just what I needed to move forward. And that worked like a charm last time. And I find even with the lightest weights, like 10, 12 pound weights, I can really target my arms, everything, my biceps, my triceps, my forearms, my wrists, my fingers. Uh, and as long as I do enough reps, I'll get the burn, uh, and it'll get pumped.
Right. Boy, and so that kind of that leads in to so what prompted this discussion for us to have. So again, uh, I'm a math guy. I'm not good at math, but I like numbers. I like the science of it. That's what's really impressed me. And in going through, and so I've been doing this for 11 years. of going through and doing research, and there's still stuff that I'm learning all the time. And so I think there are sometimes where you go through and you lay out something for someone, they're learning it for the first time, and then they'll look back on it and go, how did I not know that? It's, and yeah, because it's very simple, but sometimes you need someone to come through and explain it to you. So again, going back to the sleep, going back to recovery, which is so incredibly important. I think a lot of people believe that muscle is made in the gym. It's really not. In the gym is where you tear down the muscle, and where
Right.
you rebuild it is through nutrition, it's through protein. As they say, abs are made in the kitchen, but most importantly, it's made through sleep. So it's the reason why babies sleep as much as they do, because that's when they're growing. So they have to sleep a lot in that first year. And so sleep is tremendously important. And as someone went through and explained it to me, he said, imagine if you're only recovering to 97%. Now that 3% doesn't really seem like a whole lot, but now let's go through and let's start stacking that 3% loss every single day. How long do you have to go before suddenly you're only operating at 50% capacity because you've gone through and you're not recovering properly and you're continuing to try to tear down your body in order to improve it? So what they suggested was something called a deload phase. I had never heard of a deload phase until last week. And as soon as I heard it, and with everything that I was going through, I was like, yep, there it is. That's what we're talking about. And so a deload phase is so what you're attempting to do. And so I'm experimenting with this now. I've gone through 2 days of it. I'm going to try to write it out for the rest of the week. And again, I have to stay mentally focused. So what this is, a deload phase is where you're going to go through, you're going to continue to remain active, but you're going to go through and you're going to cut the amount of weight that you've been doing dramatically. And so, yes, I am a very big advocate of going to what I call failure minus one, where you want to go through and you want to push those muscles as much as you can to where you're starting to flirt with failure. And therefore, whether you're lifting 6 reps, 12 reps, 20 reps, it really doesn't matter as long as you're pushing yourself towards failure. But what I've found is that with this deload phase, instead, what I have to do is I have to, because I instinctively want to go through and pump those reps out to failure, just because that's what I've been doing for years now. But so really what I have found, the better way to deload, to do the deload phase, you're going to drop the weight dramatically. I'm talking like 50%. So if so again, simple numbers, if you have a 100-pound bench press, you're going to drop that thing down to 50. But then what I have found is that a good rep range for me was 15. So we're going to do 15 reps and we're out. I don't care if you have more left in the tank. That we're not trying to build here. We're just trying to keep everything going. We're trying to keep that the heart going. We're trying to stay active, but at the same time, we're not trying to build. We're trying to let our muscles grow through and repair while not going completely stagnant. And so because I'm studying this, other things start to get fed into my algorithm. I start learning other stuff. And so again, for everyone who's playing along at home, and it was like, now wait a minute, he hasn't mentioned Schwarzenegger, and maybe in a couple of shows here. So for everyone who had the Schwarzenegger box on their bingo card, I'm getting ready to play it. So Arnold, the greatest bodybuilder of all time, talked about how he wanted to get back into Terminator shape each time he went through and he did a Terminator movie. And so what they have found is that it's easier to get back to that level. I kind of equate it to like climbing up the mountain. And the first time you climb it, it is really rough. But that second time, you kind of know the pathway. It's a little bit easier to navigate. So once you fall off, it's easier to travel that path again. But because of my experience with COVID, I was so afraid of letting myself go back down the mountain because, like, I don't want to have to climb it again. I'd rather just stay at the top. But so as it turns out, so they talk about muscle memory. And whenever we go through, and so like if I'm going to go through it and I'm going to learn a brand new exercise, I always do it at a really low weight because I have to teach my body, this is what I want you to do. And then once my body starts to figure out what it's trying to do. So like I used to do, it was a version of a lat pull down, but I did it at a 45-degree angle. So I would actually stand up while I was doing the lat pull down. And so I was angling my body with my foot on the seat, and I was pulling it down so that way I could flare my lats. And it took a little bit for my body to figure out how this was going to work. But then once it did, once it started to understand it, then it would start through and the weight started to increase where it's like, okay, now I'm starting to really pack on the pounds because my body knows what it's supposed to do. So I had to write this down because I wanted to make sure that I get it right. So we talk about muscle memory.
Mm-hmm.
And is this a real thing? And as it turns out, it is.
Yes,
And
it is.
so the science behind it is, all right, so your body increases the myonuclei in the muscle fibers. And so that myonuclei is how you have trained your muscles to go through and do an exercise. And so even if you lose size from inactivity or if there's a little bit of atrophy, those nuclei remain. So when you resume training, those nuclei, they enable faster regrowth. So your body remembers what it's supposed to do. So now what you have to do is you have to go through and scale back. So it's okay to go through and take. So what they're suggesting is with this deload phase. So we've talked about this in the past. Okay, and just like you said earlier tonight, we have to go through and we have to shock those muscles. We have to go through and we have to switch up our routines, and it could be as simple as it could be changing the weight, it could be changing the exercises, but we're doing things so that way we're not getting stagnant in our growth. So what
Right.
they're saying is that you need to go through and do a deload phase every time you're about to go through and switch up your exercises. So they're saying every 8 weeks, every 12 weeks, go through and do a deload phase where you're still kind of working. And this is where I have to be really careful with my food. I have to be aware, okay, I'm not burning as many calories, but I'm still going to go through here. So let's watch what I eat a little bit more and let's go through here and let's rest. This is where I can get caught up on my cardio. This is where, and so, but the problem with this is that a lot of times we go through and if you're working out in a big commercial gym, there's the quote attributed to Plato. I can't even guarantee if he actually said it, but everyone's going through a battle that you know nothing about, and be kind. And
Right.
so if you see someone and they're training with 15-pound dumbbells and you've got the 35s and you're in there and you're lifting, oh, look at this guy. He's only doing 15. I'm doing these 35. You don't know what that dude's going through.
No.
It could be he could be rehabbing an injury. He could be in his deload phase. So we don't want to ego lift. I'm not out here trying to impress all the other people in the gym. So this is where I've gone through. And I think people, they kind of know my patterns, my routines, because we all go up, we tend to be creatures of habit. So we see the same people over and over again in the gym, and they know, oh yeah, this is a guy that takes the plates and he does a circuit around the gym after he gets done with his set. So that because I'm keeping my heart rate up. And so it's usually I'm carrying the 25-pound plates. I'm doing the full circuit around the gym. And so today it's like, I'm just going to grab these 10-pounders. It's I've gone through and I've dropped the weight, but it's because I'm in this deload phase. Again, I'm not going to ego lift. I need to do things to. So again, we're just keeping the blood flowing, but we're not tearing ourselves down. We're giving
Right.
ourselves permission to rest. And I think if I can get through my mental block, I'll be okay. So this is what I'm currently experimenting with.
That sounds fantastic. I'm experimenting with using rest, I guess, actively, because I imagine in my mind, I do a lot of visualization and affirmations and things like that. So I'm imagining while I'm resting, while I'm doing like, uh, what do they call that? The type of where you're mindful, just mindfulness. I'm just aware of my
Sure.
breathing. I'll imagine my body at rest growing. So I'll imagine my biceps and my triceps, my forearms bigger, my chest larger, my back larger, more muscular. So I'm totally relaxed. And when, like you said, and like others have said, you grow when you're at rest. So I'm working with telling my body, okay, this is a time for you to grow, and to encourage it to grow. And this way, it's active even though it's passive. It's like working with dreams. I work with my dreams most of the time. And like the more you work on it, the more you remember. So like last night, I remember 7 different dreams that I had. If I wasn't paying attention to it and reinforcing it, I'd remember maybe fragments of dreams or maybe nothing at all. But since I'm focused on this and I'm telling myself to remember and I'm doing different things with my mind and the dream, I remember more dreams. So now I'm experimenting with telling my body to heal and to grow and to repair itself and so forth. So even though I'm not doing anything, I'm doing something with the doing nothing. And I have
Well,
nothing to report yet, but that's what I'm currently playing with.
I mean, you bring up a really great point, and that's one of the things. So what I've found. So again, if we're going to go through, we're going to do this deload phase. We're going to pick a certain amount of weight. And I'm going to do that dedicated 15 reps of whatever exercise that it is I'm going to do. Again, we are lifting the weight. We're not slinging it. And so what I've found is that with doing less weight, I can reduce the speed in which I'm going through. So I'm lifting the weight a little bit slower. And then what I've found is that by going through and doing this, I'm creating a better mind muscle connection. And that is so important. And so
Yes.
in talking about where you're going through, you're telling your body what to do. This is where I highly recommend to people. I mean, okay, you're going to look a little strange, but you're doing your own thing. Don't worry about it. They'll leave you alone. So if once you go through and you do that bench press, it is perfectly acceptable to go through one, okay, and you're going to go through, and once you get done, you're going to flex your chest. I mean, you got to get as much blood as you can in there because that's it's teaching it to one. Okay, so the blood is going to get healing into those as well, but it's good to go through and flex that muscle after you're done. And once you get up and you do that, by all means, yes, go through, press on your chest, physically go through and touch your
Hmm.
chest, so that
Yeah.
way you can be like, hey, yeah, this is what we've been working, because that's what you're trying to establish, is that mind muscle connection. And so much the same way, like you were saying there, yeah, by all means, go through, give yourself a poke and be like, oh, hey, all right, yeah, muscles kind of starting to show up there. And I think that will help go through. It's a more defining approach where you're not worried so much about the amount of weight that you're lifting, but it's more, is my form accurate? Am I going through and am I lifting that weight instead of slinging it? By going through and doing that, I think people would see a tremendous benefit, and they'll feel more confident knowing that that mind muscle connection is there.
And it does work on some level. I don't know which level exactly. I haven't figured that out yet. But one of the things that I also do is I like Jack Kirby, the artist, and
Sure.
he's the mind behind a lot of our mythological figures for today. I imagine Olympia, which is where the Eternals live in his comic book universe for Marvel. And I imagine, what if the Eternals designed exercise equipment? And then,
Yeah, I'd be curious to see it.
and I imagine myself in a Kirby designed gym doing exercises that are perfectly calibrated to give maximal effort, to my muscles. And I'll do that and I'll imagine it. And using my muscle memory, I'll remember what my chest feels like totally pumped, the best pump I've ever gotten. And I'll remember that. And I'll remember the ultimate pumps from my arms, even though some of them happened decades ago. And bring back that memory and imagine it and strain, to get the form right as I handle heavy poundages. And in some way, that does something also, because people who don't know me have been commenting on my muscles again. Like I'll be in the store, and hey, muscle guy or old guy with muscles. People say stuff like that. So on some level, that works, even if it just gives out an aura of the attack
Sure.
muscles. Because I certainly don't look as muscular as I've looked before in my past. But if people are picking that up, then hey, I'm happy with that.
Right. Well, it's no, it's funny that you mentioned that, because in talking with you and about how important stretching is, so that's one of the things that I've tried to incorporate into this deload week, is to go through. I had to go through and do research, because like, okay, this isn't really lifting weights. What should I count this as on my watch in order to get credit for the exercise? And they're counting it as yoga. anything where you're doing a series of deep stretches and you're really concentrating on your breathing. I know that you can say yoga and a lot of people are going to want to tune out, but to go through and stretch all those muscles appropriately,
Workout.
I think that's helping with the healing.
Almost certainly so.
And so again, because I know back in the day you had always talked about how you love doing leg day, and
Yeah,
so again,
I love leg day.
so going back and so one of my favorite exercises that they have are the leg extensions.
Hmm.
And so the way the leg extensions typically are, the way that you should properly do them is, so typically they have the seats, and then the for the uninitiated, the leg extension, it's basically you're sitting down. The weight is on a connected to it's connected to a stack of weights, and it has a pad that usually rests at the front of your ankles. And so you just go through and you lift your legs. You are extending your legs and then setting them back down. So it's a leg extension, simple, but very effective and great when it comes to targeting the quads, which I'm hoping I'm going to get to before we break out. But that's a whole other thing. But so they have handles there by the seat. And so what you're supposed to do, you're supposed to grab those handles and really pull your butt into the seat as much as you can, so that way to kind of lock yourself in place. So that way your hips aren't wiggling. It's so that way everything's really isolated on your quads. But what I have found is that there's much more of a response for me if I go through and I allow myself to grab the tops of my legs. If I can grab the tops of my thighs and I can feel those muscles working while I'm going through and doing those extensions, it instills me with confidence. Yeah, I can feel those muscles working. So to me, that's a really cool thing. And so in going through it and developing all this, one of the things that we found is that you can always tell. So whenever if I'm just going to do like an arm day, it feels like, so it goes through and it's tracking on my watch how many calories I'm burning, and it's like, man, I'm in here working hard, but it's like it never really seems to register as much until I go through and I do a leg day. Then I'm close. So it's a ring that you're supposed to close. So you set it for the certain amount. And I never have a problem closing that ring whenever it comes to leg day. And why leg day is so important. And so, because I know you're a big fan of leg day, because we've talked about it in the past. But so why is leg day so important? Aside from the physical, okay, so you get a higher metabolic output. Sure, you got an elevated heart rate, so you're burning more calories. You have more energy. You have a greater hormone response, testosterone and growth and all this sort of stuff. And then you have it's called an EPOC, which is an excess post-exercise oxygen consumption. I had to write that down to make sure I got that right. But so an EPOC, so basically you can feel that burn for anywhere from up to 24 hours. It's the reason why lifting weights is superior to cardio, because as soon as you jump off that treadmill, the burn is over. But if you go through here and you're working by lifting the muscles at resistance training, that burn is going to continue long after you've gotten off the bench, gone home, showered, you're working, you're still going through and burning because of that EPOC. But there's new research that has been put out there that shows that leg day, why it is so important, is because of a thing called neurogenesis. And so neurogenesis, this is where it gets a little wild. Okay, so studies have shown that lower body resistance training can stimulate neurogenesis. It is the growth of new neurons, particularly in the hippocampus, the part of the brain involved in memory and learning. So
Awesome.
essentially, neurogenesis means you're generating new brain cells. You are getting smarter by going through and doing these leg days. And so to me, and so that right there is just, it's another one of these. Again, I've been doing research about this for the last 11 years, and I stumble across this and going, hey, wait, so squatting makes me smarter? Well, all right, let's do some more
Yeah,
squats.
how can you beat that?
Yeah.
I know for a while it jogs up your memory. I remember when I used to do like really, really heavy leg days, I couldn't think for a little while after doing the set. And then my brain would come back again. But that was the downside of it. But afterwards, I felt great. I felt my whole body felt renewed and fantastic. And I didn't know that. Now I know that, and it's going to lead to lots of meditation and experimentation.
So the way that I would go through and look at it, so in mentioning that, it's me trying to do the math on the plates in the moment. I can't do it where I'm just like, so 45 plus 45 is how much?
Yeah.
So I've got to break the calculator out to figure out how much this is because I can't figure out in that moment. But then afterwards, yeah, when you come out from it, so basically so if you skip leg day, you're going to shrink your brain. So I mean, on one hand, if you go through and you do the leg day, yes, you're absolutely going to get that fat donk that the guys want to have to fill out a pair of jeans, but it's also going to go through and it's going to help your brain as well.
And I'm going to research that in terms of the Parkinson's, because Parkinson's is a neurological disease, and it ties in with the vagus nerve in a way I don't understand yet, but I will once I finish doing my research, and also with DOPA reading, I guess dopamine reaching the brain and getting through blood barriers, and I still don't understand that well either. But I know the medication I take helps dopamine go into my brain and getting through the barriers that are there, and my brain's no longer producing dopamine as much. Again, I'm in the beginning of my research there. I don't understand it very well, but I will.
Well, okay, so whenever you told me about the Parkinson's, I was upset. I think rightfully so, but almost kind of immediately after having that conversation with you, I was like, okay, well, if anyone can beat this thing, I I, I think you're in a position to do it, or at the very least, you have the ability to stave off before it gets bad. You're going to be fine. All right. So, I mean, it's or if it's going to take you down, it's going to take a really long time. I'm afraid I'm not coming across as eloquently
No,
as I would like to.
thank you very much for believing me. I'm really doing everything I possibly can to address this, and my physical therapist and my occupational therapist have verbalized that I'm making progress, and they could tell that I'm doing everything I can to address this. So I too, I am very optimistic about it, and people can live decades with Parkinson's and still have a quality life. So even if I just get a few decades of quality life, that'll be worth all this extra effort I'm putting in.
Right. And so that's with all the bodybuilding, all the working out that you've done in the past. I mean, it's absolutely one of the best things that we can do. I believe wholeheartedly that it has certainly helped my life over these last 11 years, improve my quality of life. So to me, yes. And so now hearing about this neurogenesis, I mean, there's a part of me going, well, wait a minute, if leg day is really big for, yeah, if that's going to help you grow your brain back, well, I said, well, man, Hercules, no one does more leg days than him. So so for that to be beneficial for you, I certainly hope that it does. I'm not smart enough to be able to discuss all the different stuff as far as the difference between dopamine and all the other different chemicals that go through that are triggering us for happiness. But yeah, so man, I'd love to talk that. I'd love to hear what your research comes across next month. I think that'd be a fascinating conversation.
I will gladly share.
Okay, good deal. Boy, I know we're probably going to be close to running out of time here, but so one of the things that I wanted to talk about, so again, which goes back to the leg extensions. So once we start to get out of my this deloading phase that I'm in, it's going to be time to go back to lifting heavy. And so again, in going through and doing my research, what I found is that failure, it's not universal. It also tends to be exercise specific. And so there are times where we need to kind of go through and do a reassessment of how we're going to go through and we're going to put our workouts together. So a lot of people will tell you that, okay, so if you're going to start off, you do your big compound movements, you do your deadlifts, you do your bench presses, you do your squats, do those early in the exercise in your routine. Do those early because that's when you're going to be recruiting the most muscle fibers. It's where you're going to have your most energy. So that's where you're going to get the majority of your lifts down. But now, again, we're talking about if we want to really grow our muscles, we have to go through and we have to take them to failure. So, what constitutes failure? And more importantly, are the right muscles failing at the right time? So by that, what I mean is, if we're going to go through and I'm going to put someone in the squat rack and say, I'm going to need you to do 50 squats, what is going to fail on them first? Is it going to be their legs? Is it going to be their calves? Is it going to be their butt? Is it going to be their lower back? Or is it going to be their heart? Because, and not like they drop dead from a heart attack, but or is it going to be that they don't have the cardio to go through and get 50 reps of this particular exercise? So what that got me thinking is, okay, so like a barbell squat, for me personally, if I'm going to do a massive amount of reps of these, what's going to fail for me first is going to be my lower back. So I need to take my lower back to failure, probably, or I need to do exercises in order to strengthen that lower back. But if we're going to go through, and so let's say, hey, I specifically want my quads to get bigger, but everyone's saying, well, I'm supposed to do the compound movements first. But now if we go through, but now let's start to break these down. Because if we're doing a big compound movement, how are we able to specifically go through and isolate only your quads in order to get them to grow to the amount that you want to? And so sometimes that can be very difficult. So as it may turn out, we're choosing the wrong exercise to start with. So instead, if we lead off in the beginning with a leg extension, which again is just where you're sitting down, and it's a single joint movement because only your knee is moving. So if you're going through and you're doing those leg extensions, oh, this is where my selfie game is not good. Okay, so if you're doing the leg extensions, and so all that's working here is this part of your quads. So because of that extension, so if you're going through and you're doing that first, then those are the muscles that are specifically targeted, and that's where it's going to fail first. And so then as a result, those muscles are going to grow. So I think there are times where we kind of have to go through and we have to establish, okay, what do we want to grow and why? And then you have to go through and cater those exercises to specifically target that muscle group. The way I like to describe this a lot of times is it's an aperture on a flashlight. And sometimes you can have that aperture really wide open. So that way it's a lot of your body part is getting targeted. But then there are other times where you want to go through and you really want to tighten up the aperture of that flashlight and really just focus in on one very specific muscle group. So we have to think. So we've been told compound movements are the superior method because there's more being recruited. But if you want to go through and target a very specific part of the body, maybe that's the part that we should try to exhaust first. So this is not me saying, hey, don't do compound movements or you only do these. I'm just saying sometimes we might want to go through and rethink the order in which we're doing things in order to go through and grow those specific muscles.
You're a true scientist, Ryan.
Well, I try.
And I love talking to you because you're always exploring new things. You're always open to new ideas. And a lot of times you'll throw something out there and I'll think about it later. And it's like, let me try that. And
Right.
Much to the benefit of my workouts and my overall health. So thank you.
Good. And so again, the idea is to take that muscle to failure as much as possible, but without letting other areas jump in to kind of compensate. But then, so again, progressive overload, it doesn't necessarily mean that, you can go through and maybe it doesn't necessarily mean adding more weight. It may be, hey, let's add a few more reps or let's slow that pacing down. And believe me, if you try to go through and you do a bench press at half speed of what you're normally used to doing, where you don't have that big explosive movement up to the top, I think you'll find that those muscles they're working in a different style, in a different direction that you may find. And so again, I think what it all comes down to, it's whatever can best find that mind muscle connection. And so if that means lifting slower as opposed to what's a more explosive lift, then by all means do that. Again, like you said, do it until it doesn't work anymore. So sometimes you have to experiment to find what works. And so for me, that's part of the challenge, is finding those muscle pairings to say, okay, so if I'm going to do this exercise, I'm going to pair it with this exercise, and then I'm going to add this to it. And so that's, to me, that's the fun of it. That's the part that I really enjoy.
That is the fun of it. And I try to do that every week. Like, for instance, sometimes I'll have an arm day where I'll do my, my fingers, my hands grip, my wrist, my forearms, my biceps, my triceps, and my whole arm exercise, like hammer curls or Zotman curls. And then for the next workouts, I'll break it down with body parts. So I'll do my forearms on leg day with my hands and my wrists and blah, blah, blah. And then I'll do my chest and my triceps and my back and my biceps. And the same thing. Then I'll do my chest and my back on the same day and add my abs. And some things like calves, I know you could bombard your calves, so I'll do those every other day, but I'll pair them with like different exercises and different body parts. So I try to continuously keep my body like a little bit of balance. And sometimes I'll do light and I'll do lots of reps, and sometimes I'll do a bit heavier and I'll do slower, heavier reps, and with less reps but more weight. And that keeps your body continuously reacting to different things. So you're not just doing the same old thing and staying in the same old rut. Your body has to think and attend to what you're doing and respond differently.
And it's a great point. And yes, and that's the way that we should be doing, is going through and trying to find all these different ways. So in going through and in doing this deload phase, I think that's helping me tremendously. For the people out there that are listening, if you're struggling, then by all means, I highly encourage adding this in. Again, now, in learning about the deload phase and then also going through and incorporating it, it took a little bit of time, so I don't have all my data yet. But as of right now, I think it's been nothing but positive for me. And I just want to clarify here, though. I mean, so again, I said in the beginning, I felt like this was going to be a little bit of first world problems. I am very lucky in that I am able to go to the gym every single day. It's part of my routine. And I'm very lucky that I have a job that works around, so where the schedule works out. So that way I can go to the gym and then still go do my 9 to 5, come home, do my writing, maybe watch a little bit of TV, play a little bit on my game, talk to a friend on a Zoom meeting, but there are times where it does feel like it's all kind of swarming around you. And one of the things that I have to keep myself from doing, even though I'm in there every single day, is beating myself up for taking a day off. And so because when I was studying my numbers, and it was like, man, you got to get going here. You got to burn more calories if you're going to lose this fat. And it can be a very frustrating thing, but I do understand that not everyone has this, the luxuries that I do, has the privilege that I have to be able to go to the gym every single day. I know there are some people out there that are probably working 2 jobs and putting in 80 hours a week, and they want to spend time with their kids. And so I get it. So just because I have this ability, and so it's me going through so here's me beating myself up, and I go every single day. And even I find myself falling into that pit. And that's the last thing that I want, is anyone to feel bad about themselves for, if you have to go through and you have to take some rest days because work is getting you down, or family issues are getting you down, or girl problems, or boyfriend problems, or whatever's, if it's dragging you down, you have to take a step back. It's okay. It's perfectly okay to go through and take some time for yourself in order for you to heal. Again, we're doing this with intention. We're going to sleep with intention. We're going to rest with intention. So that way we can come back and attack it better. We're going to take one step back in order to take a running leap forward. And you have my permission to do this. You have science's permission to do this, because I shouldn't have scrolled away. I was on a roll. What is the stuff? The Mayo. the myonuclei grants you the ability to go through and take that rest. And when you do, you will come back bigger and stronger and better, and you're going to feel better about yourself. So by all means, if you ever feel like you're about, so again, I felt like I was really close to crashing out, and I just needed to go through and take some time for myself to go through. And so now I'm doing this healing method in order to improve. So if you ever feel like that things are getting too tough for you, I always recommend getting in the gym. If you do it the right way, put your phone away for an hour and just take that time for yourself. That is your time to go through and build yourself up and feel confident in yourself because you've lifted this weight. This is the heaviest thing I've lifted today. Now, everything else, it is all downhill from here. And that's the experience that I want people to bring to the gym. It's not, again, it's not because I want you to look better in a bathing suit. It's not because I want you to say that you need to lose a few pounds. It's because I want you to feel confident in yourself. And the reason why I come on this show and the reason why Hercules, why I love talking to you and to get my message out there, thank you. Thank you for letting me have this platform
And thank you for your
because,
generosity. You've
well,
been very generous, not only through these shows, but also through Fury and Strength, through the Phoenix protocols. You have consistently, and all the time I've known you, and I've known you for years now, you've been very generous with sharing your path, your discoveries, your triumphs, your setbacks, and that is greatly appreciated. And again, we didn't connect initially over bodybuilding. You're my favorite Greek mythology graphic novelist, and that's still true to this day.
well, I thank you for that. And so just to, because I know we're getting close here on time, but so to close, if I may, it's where I wish someone would have sat down with me and had this conversation with me years ago. So to me, if I had the ability to reach back and help someone and help their pathway be a little bit shorter, there's plenty of seats at the table. So it's by all means, please take this knowledge that I'm giving you and that Hercules is giving you, talking to the reader or the viewers there in out there in the on the internet sphere. I want you to go through and just become a better you. That's all I want. I don't want you to be better than anyone else. I just want you to be better than who you were yesterday. That's always been my goal whenever I come on here to talk.
And that's a worthy goal, and you serve the goal excellently. So thank you very much for that. Before we wrap up, and I ask for contact information, since our last conversation, I've come to some different conclusions than I had last time. I decided that I'm going to go for everything that I can go for. Like, even if it sounds ridiculous, if it's something that I truly want to do, I'm just going to do it. Life is short. I'm in my late 60s. I have all these things that are new challenges to face and confront. So when I first started my career in blending entertainment and human services and so forth, I declared an age of heroes in New York. And back then, the gap between those who had computers and those who didn't have computers was very large. And so I went to different people and I got them together. And without money, without anything formal, we tried to spread access to computers in like Brooklyn and other places. And people were joining and they were inspired by Jason and the Argonauts, some of them the ancient epics, and others by what they saw on TV when they were growing up in the 60s. But everybody gave of themselves and we got programs going. And I visualized the monster's Gningagap, the gaping void in Norse mythology, because this digital divide, as they were calling it, was coming in and separating us. Eventually, Bill Gates solved the problem by giving computers to libraries, but until he did that, we were addressing the problem each in our own way. And agencies were contributing rooms, or there were companies contributing like old computers. There were people who were computer instructors donating some of their time to show people how to open up email and how to use the computer. So this was an effort of love. And now, again, I'm no longer in the career mode or working on the backgammon board of careers. but I'm who I am. So I've declared another Age of Heroes. And we have a community night. So I'm going to have a table at the community night. I'm going to give away books on health and healing, and not pushing any particular way, just information. And for agencies and individuals that can't be there personally because they don't have the freedom to do so, I'll carry their stuff and give it away for free as well. So that's how I'm starting it. It's going to be the quest for optimal wellness, and I'm going to be tweaking the shows a little bit to fit into that new framework. But I decided I'm going to make it an adventure as exciting as the adventure that I had when I first started this strange journey. So I'm going to continue with the strange journey, and it made me happy to decide that. So I'm sharing it with you, and wanted you to know about it.
That's fantastic. I think that's amazing. And we need more people like you doing stuff like that.
How can people enter your world? And your world is a wonderful world, and you're a wonderful person, and I'm very honored that we've become friends and that we speak about many things.
Boy, I'm still going to be figuring that out with us shifting over here to YouTube. I'm over on Facebook, and so again, for the graphic novels that you were talking about, they're available on Amazon. So a quick search there would absolutely be able to help people get dialed into me.
Ryan, thank you so much. As always, you're incredible, and I look forward to our next conversation already, and I'll have a lot to report that I've thought about based on what you've said in this conversation.
That sounds great. And as my final closer, I'll tell everyone, go see Superman. Go see it in theaters. Go see it twice. It's absolutely fantastic.
Awesome. I had intended to, so now I will. Thank you very
Good.
much.